Everybody, welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm Ted. I think I've met most of you. Just in case I haven't, this is a housekeeping thing. The kitchen is right there, and right behind the kitchen to the right are the bathrooms if you need them. This is our fourth meetup, and I'm glad to see a lot of you come back. This is really great. If any of you have ideas or projects that you're working on and would like to present, let me know. That's great. Really glad that you're here. And I'd like to thank Matt Carano for coming over from Portsmouth to talk to us tonight about Swarm City and his project. And I guess for tonight, what I'll do, introduce Matt. Matt will talk to us. We'll do maybe some Q&A and then spend some time afterward just networking informally. So, thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Ted said, my name is Matt Carano. I work on a project called Swarm City. And I was first introduced to blockchain technology in 2011 with, of course, Bitcoin. And it took a few times for me to sort of get the implications, but once I realized that now you could send value anywhere on the planet for little or no cost, instantly, and the most important part, that no one could interfere with it, I was completely hooked. And since then, I've been participating in blockchain projects, and Swarm City has been a project I've been working on for almost a couple of years, about a year and a half now, I would say. So, well, what is Swarm City? Swarm City is a decentralized commerce platform with a built-in blockchain-based reputation. And I'm going to break that down for you. If you think about it, humans are social creatures, right? It's like we sort of evolved this way. It's part of our psychology, and it makes sense because humans have to collaborate with each other because no one on the planet is good at everything, right? Like, yeah, I'm good at a very small suite of things, and most people are, and so we really have to band together to get the best possible outcomes for ourselves and our families and our communities and the world. And so social behavior and how that sort of fits in is social behavior is peaceful behavior, and it's a way that we can entice people to work together. So, but because humans need to collaborate, there's this issue that exists, and that issue is how do we know, how can we trust that the people that we're working with are good actors? How do we know that they're not gonna hurt us in some way? And so, to solve that, to combat this issue of trust, third-party trust administrators were born, and these things started happening hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years ago. There are intermediaries like banks and credit bureaus and escrow services and even governments, right? Government, we won't get too far into this, but government at its highest level or ordeal, or highest level, their goal is to help keep their citizens safe from bad actors, right? But there's also commerce platforms. Now that we're the internet age, commerce platforms like Amazon and Uber even, or social platforms like Facebook and Twitter, all of them, their whole mandate is to collect a bunch of data from us, and we give it willingly, of course, sometimes. And they use that to essentially vouch for us, right? To say that, hey, listen, Matt's on my platform, and because we have all his information, that we know his identity, he's cool. And everybody else that he's interacting with, they're cool too. And that's fine, except that using third parties has costs. And what we found is that these costs really stem from the way that they're sort of formed. They're these centralized institutions, and that plays into these costs. So, what are the costs? There are practical costs, of course. If you're going to build Amazon now, it's going to cost a lot of money for you to do it, right? You need a whole bunch of employees, you need offices, you need a lot of computers and security experts and yada yada. And so the cost of that trickles down to the end user, to us. If you use Amazon, you're going to be paying anywhere between 13 or 15% of your transaction goes back to Amazon. Or if you take an Uber, 30% of your ride cost is going back to Uber. If you think about it, that's kind of a large amount of value that is getting taken from the people who are creating the value in the first place. If it weren't me and this other person collaborating, then nothing would ever get done, nothing would ever happen. So the value is coming from the people who are who are creating it, right? And that's not a bad thing. Like, I don't blame Amazon, or I don't blame Uber, I don't blame any of these companies for charging us for this. They fulfilled a market need. All I'm saying is that it's expensive. So that's one of the practical costs. The other practical cost is security. Like I said before, we trade a bunch of our information, right? So that they will vouch for us, that they'll vouch for our identity or our reputation. And as you probably know, any company that's storing a bunch of valuable user data on their servers is ripe for attack by hackers. They become honeypots because information is valuable, identity information is valuable. And I mean, I have a hard time naming companies who haven't gotten hacked. Target got hacked, Uber got hacked. What was it, MyFitnessPal that we just saw got hacked?
Yeah.
Yeah, and 20 million user identities are gone. So chances are, I mean, I would bet that everybody here has our identity, our identifying information is in the hands of people that we don't trust right now. So those are the practical costs. But philosophical cost is something that's even more interesting to me, and that is, if you're doing a deal on Amazon, if we do a deal on Amazon, they don't like what we're doing, they get to say no, right? And so what, in essence, that we're doing is we are trading our power for security, right? So philosophically, that's something that really speaks to me. And so we need to solve this issue of trust, right? We need to solve this issue of being able to trust people that we don't know, to interact with people that we don't know without using centralized solutions, because those centralized solutions cause the problems that I just mentioned. So what do? We use Swarm City. So we need decentralized solutions that solve this issue of trust. And Swarm City solves the issue of trust while allowing for decentralized exchange. And we do this is achieved by using the tools that Vitalik gave us, the Ethereum blockchain and smart contracts. And probably most of you know it, maybe I'm guessing most of you know what these words mean, but just in case you don't, a blockchain is just a distributed ledger, it's a public ledger. And it's a ledger that updates everybody simultaneously so that we can all agree that everything on it is correct. And then smart contracts are used to basically create rules of a deal before they ever happen. So it's almost like a bunch of if-then statements. If this happens, if you go here and you do this and you bring this thing, then your funds will get released to this person. That's what smart contracts happen. And those two combined, the blockchain and the smart contract really create a way for us to do decentralized exchange. And so I'm gonna take you through what exchange looks like in Swarm City, and also talk about how reputation works in Swarm City, because that's the thing that really drives me about this project. So first of all, I want to define what commerce is. I was talking about that Swarm City creates a centralized exchange. Commerce is just being able to exchange value. It doesn't have to be financial value, although it could be. It could be information. It's just anything. It's product, service, information. And commerce needs three things in order for it to happen. People need to be able to find each other, they need to be able to communicate, and they need to be able to transact. And so whether it's centralized or decentralized exchange, those are the elements that need to be there. Now, decentralized commerce, actually it's probably easier to start with, what are centralized institutions? I think that people define this differently than maybe I do. For me, what centralization means is it's a single point of failure. It's censored. It has the ability to be censored, right? If you develop an app and you put your app in an app store, and Apple doesn't like that app, they get to kick it out, and what are you going to do? Your app's not useful anymore. Or Backpage.com. Did you guys see that? Backpage. I didn't even really know what this thing was. Backpage is like a Craigslist, and they were just shut down by the feds because they didn't like how people were interacting on their website. So if your property exists in a place where people can shut it down, you are centralized, you can be censored. Whereas decentralized institutions or decentralized organizations have no single point of failure. They cannot be censored. That's what makes them so important, right? Yes? Yeah. So that's, well, that, I mean, if people use the word decentralized, and I think that they don't use it in the correct way. So it's sort of a buzzword in the Ethereum world and in the blockchain world to call your product decentralized, but I think a lot of people are using it that don't have that definition in mind, that it cannot be censored. It's censor resistant. Censor proof would be perfect, but censor resistant. And that is the case with Swarm City. Swarm City can't be censored. It's an open source project. The code lives anywhere and everywhere. People who are interacting in Swarm City, no user can stop an interaction from happening. Swarm City itself can't stop interactions from happening, peaceful people from interacting within our platform. And Swarm City can't stop users from creating marketplaces in Swarm City, and we'll talk about that. So anyway, that's decentralized commerce. But let me take you through what a deal looks like in Swarm City. When you go to swarm.city and you log in, right now you'd see, I mean, I have a profile, of course, you'd see your avatar. You wouldn't see my avatar, you'd see your own avatar. You'd see how many Swarm tokens you own. The SWAT, or the Swarm token, is our token exchange on our platform, so I have 27.99 there. And then down below, you would see a list of marketplaces. And right now, there's only one marketplace. It's Pioneer, and we designate marketplaces with a hashtag in Swarm City. So hashtag Pioneer is a marketplace. And marketplaces in Swarm City are context specific. They have to do with a specific thing. And so let's say that hashtag Pioneer, the Pioneer marketplace, is a place where people go to buy and sell coffee beans. And so when you click on hashtag Pioneer, you would get to this page, and we won't worry about the top part for now, but I'll talk about that in a second. But down below is a chat box, a place where people can create a request. So it says, what are you looking for? And maybe I would write in there, I'm looking for 20 pounds or 10 pounds of Brazilian beans shipped to this address. And it says, what do you offer? And so I would put the amount of Swarm tokens that I'd be willing to pay for this. So I'd say, I'll pay 20 Swarm tokens. And then on the other end, a coffee provider, a coffee seller, would be searching hashtag Pioneer, that marketplace, to see, we'd be searching that marketplace because they want to see requests from people who are trying to buy their coffee. And they would answer my request. They'd click on it, and I don't have that screen for you, but they click on it, and they would answer me, and they would say, yeah, Matt, I'd love to, I can send you 10 pounds, no problem. I'll send it out in 3 days, and 20 Swarm tokens, that's great. And so then back on my end, I would see everybody who answers me. It might be one person, it might be 5 people. And then I would get to decide who I want to, get into a deal with based on how, if they're giving me the thing that I want, how much they're saying they can do it for. Because someone could say, oh, I can't do it for 20 Swarm tokens, but I can do it for 25 if that's okay. And also I'd be able to judge based on their reputation. So I'd look at those 3 things and decide who the person was that I wanted to do a deal with, and I'll talk about reputation in a minute. And so I would click on the person that I'd want, and I would acknowledge in the app that I want to get into a deal with them. And that's when the smart contract takes over. Every marketplace is its own smart contract. And so what would happen is the smart contract takes over and takes funds from each of our wallets and puts them into the smart contract wallet, into an escrow, right? And then what happens is when the deal is done, meaning they've shipped my coffee to me, and I've indicated in the app that everything worked out great, the smart contract takes over again and sweeps the funds over to the seller. And then the last thing that the smart contract does is something very important. It then, for every successful deal, it generates reputation tokens. You can think of them as points, but they're actually generated tokens, unspendable tokens, reputation tokens for the buyer and the seller. So if I do 1,000 successful deals in that marketplace, in hashtag Pioneer, I would have 1,000 reputation for that marketplace. And like I said before, every marketplace is unique, and it's controlled by a unique smart contract. So say there are 10 marketplaces that I do deals with. There's a rideshare marketplace that I called hashtag Need a Ride, and I've done 500 successful rides there, so I have 500 reputation. Or an Amazon-style buy-sell marketplace that I've done 250 successful deals there. Then I would have 250 rep. in that marketplace too. So any user who wants to interact with me in the future would see my reputation, not only specific to the marketplace we're in, but every single marketplace I'm in, because what happens is this reputation gets attached to my public key, my public-private key actually. And that's actually a good thing to mention. So identity in blockchain, your identity is your public-private key pair. It's your wallet, right? And so if you kind of think about it, like your reputation in Swarm City is the sum of all your interactions in a specific context. So your reputation is a list of all of the marketplaces that you've done business with and how many successful deals you've done in that. And so just like anybody before they get into a deal with me can see my reputation, before I get into a deal with them, I can see their reputation too. So I wanted to round out the marketplace portion of this next. And I told you to ignore this part before. But earlier on I said that in Swarm City, what we're really doing is we're giving people the tools to create marketplaces and to create communities. We don't create, I mean, we created the first marketplace as like a show people how to use it and stuff. But we're giving people the tools to create their own marketplaces. So basically create their own smart contracts. And so there is an owner of #Pioneer of this marketplace. And their public address, their public key is listed right here. And what happens is that owner, they get to determine when they create their marketplace how much they're going to charge per transaction that goes through their marketplace. And so in this case, the owner is charging 0.005 Swarm tokens. So their incentive is to want to put as many transactions through their marketplace as possible, right? Because the more that goes through, the more that they make. So their incentive is to really want to make sure that people are interacting through their marketplace. And so how do they do that? Well, they do that by creating an excellent environment for people to buy, in this case, to buy and sell coffee. And there's several ways that they can do that. First of all, if I didn't get my coffee beans in the mail, then what happens? Well, I would indicate in the app that there was a problem. The deal didn't happen successfully. And that would trigger, that would send a message to the #owner. And then the #owner would contact both of us and ask what was going on. And say, like, hey, I got to this deal, he said he could send it in 3 days, didn't send it, now I'm here without coffee, and I've got a coffee headache. And then, and maybe the other one said, the seller was like, I just didn't like his cut of his jib, so I didn't want to send it to him. And what the #owner can then do is figure out who it was wronged in this situation. And they can, and in this case, I was the one clearly wronged, I have the headache. Oh. I was the one clearly wrong, I was the one that had the headache. And so they can decide to, number one, sweep my Swarm tokens back to me, because remember there's funds in that escrow account, right? But they can also penalize the seller who never sent me anything and maybe send me 25% of their tokens too, or all of their tokens too. So so what happens is, hold on one second. Yeah? No? Don't memorize my password. You can. So the incentive then is for the #owner to be as fair as possible when these issues come up. Because if they have a reputation of this being a very fair place to transact, then more people obviously will want to transact in their marketplace and they'll make more. But it also incentivizes good actors in the transactors too, right? If there is an arbiter who can decide that someone was wronged and can get restitution for being wronged, then what that means is the seller in this point, they're not going to want to be a bad actor over and over and over, because they're going to lose all their funds, or they'll never gain any reputation, right? That no one will ever want to interact with them. So it incentivizes the people who are party to the deal to be good actors, and it incentivizes the marketplace owner to be a good actor. So another way that the marketplace owner can create an excellent place for people to transact is by creating what we call a storefront. Now, actually, if you look at, so this interface is extremely simple and very light and not hard to deal with at all. and I don't, like I said, I don't have the screen, but if we were in the in a marketplace now, and it didn't have, you know, this chat box and stuff, you'd see a list of all of the requests here, but it's very much like a classified. I mean, it's very similar to what a Craigslist would sort of be. We kind of feel that way, sort of a Craigslist plus reputation plus a way to transact value. So it's very easy to deal with, but it's not optimal for certain types of marketplaces. Like, it's too simple. If, like, say we were doing a rideshare marketplace, well, there's some attributes of a rideshare app that you might want to have, like an interactive map where you could see where the drivers are, as you know, and how long it's going to take for them to get to you, or maybe it would allow drivers to upload a picture of their car, their license information, their insurance information. And you can't do that in the Swarm City interface. But what storefronts are their graphical user interfaces that marketplace owners can attach to the front end of their hashtag, their marketplace. And basically, the way that transactions would happen, interactions would happen, would go through that front end. And instead of going through the Swarm.City, through the Swarm City app, people would actually go to the front end, the URL of their favorite marketplace. So it's almost like it's exactly like they're going to their favorite rideshare app or their favorite coffee purveyor app, right? And the cool thing is about these storefronts is it's the development capabilities are not, you don't need a ton I mean, you need some skill set, but it's front end skill set. You need HTML, you need CSS, maybe some Polymer experience in order to make this happen. But there won't just be one rideshare storefront for Swarm City. People will be building them, and there'll be marketplaces of storefronts. And then it's up to the marketplace owners then to decide which storefront will best serve the needs of the people who are using their marketplaces. And they'll choose which one works best for them, and they'll attach it right in. Last thing that I want to talk about to sort of complete the ecosystem of Swarm City is this concept that we call hives. I said before that people can organize into a marketplace in Swarm City, but they also can organize as communities, which we call hives. And a good way to sort of explain what these are is rideshare is always this really good example. If you're a lone provider, sole provider, rideshare driver, in most places in the country, you would probably have a hard time getting by. Like, I don't know the laws everywhere, but in New Hampshire it's probably a little bit easier, but in, say, Texas, the insurance requirements for being a rideshare driver are quite high. And there's licensing requirements, all sorts of stuff. So the chances of you being able to pay for all those things and still be profitable is pretty low. You usually have to join up with something like Uber, or Lyft or something. Well, in Swarm City, and you do that because you want to benefit from economies of scale. So in Swarm City, drivers could band together in hives to benefit from economies of scale. And I'll tell you how that works. Just like marketplaces are controlled by a smart contract, so are hives. And just like marketplaces have owners, hives have owners. So I could create my own hive, Matt's Rideshare Hive, and when I create it, I get to decide what percentage of everybody's transaction that they do in the name of the hive goes into our smart contract wallet, into our shared wallet, right? So say it's like, whatever, 1% of all your transactions. If you're going to do a transaction, you're going to do a rideshare in the name of Matt's Rideshare Hive, 1% of all your income is going to come into our shared wallet. And it's smart contracts, so it all happens automatically. If I'm in the hive, if I'm part of the hive, these things happen automatically through the smart contract. So I also get to, as the hive owner, I also get to make another choice, and that is how do I want to create, or what type of governance do I want to create to govern the usage of this wallet, of the funds in this wallet. It could be a dictatorship, where I decide where all the funds go myself. It could be a straight up democracy, where everybody who's a hive member gets a single vote. Or it could be based on reputation. Just like anybody who interacts in a marketplace earns marketplace reputation, anybody who interacts on behalf of a hive earns hive reputation. So say I do 1,000 rides as part of Matt's, I can't remember what I call it, Matt's rideshare hive. Then I would have 1,000 hive rep. And so therefore maybe I would have proportionally more say than someone who has only 1 or 2 rep in this hive. So there's just multiple governance models that will allow different types of people to affect where the funds of the hive goes. So that's pretty much the ecosystem of Swarm City. Once again, we're a decentralized commerce platform with built-in reputation, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So, you've covered a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I tried to get a lot in.
Really interesting. But so the first question I have, I guess, is how do you promote adoption?
So the way that I see it is our job is to create the tools, and even though, in the beginning there'll be a lot of communication and getting the word out, the people who are next coming into Swarm City are builders. They're people who want to create their own organizations in there, right? Because we're not going to create people's marketplaces. It's for entrepreneurs who decide that, oh, this is a great way to organize. So one of the ways that I would try to connect with them is a lot of blockchain enthusiasts who are already not scared of things like cryptocurrencies or tokens, who want to build something on the platform.
So do you see your project is really just building out the infrastructure for the marketplaces? Are you building out your own marketplace for mass rides or something?
Yeah, so our dev team will, because eventually once they're done with the whole suite through Hives, then they basically will hive up themselves and can be hired to do tasks. Maybe they'll be hired to do storefronts for people, or for other types of work on the platform. Cool. So I know that they will. They definitely want to participate in the ecosystem. I've considered that it would also make sense, like if I created a marketing hive or a communication hive, that people could hire me to do communication or marketing for their marketplaces. And the cool thing is because these marketplaces are governed by a smart contract. In the beginning, when someone sets up a marketplace, they can choose to allocate funds. They can split funds to different people. So if you think about it, it doesn't have to be just a single person who runs a marketplace. It can be a hive that runs a marketplace. So someone could, I start a marketplace and I'm like, oh, I'm terrible at mediating and I don't know what's fair, so I want this person to come in with me. And I'll allocate 25% of the funds to go to them. Or I need a good marketing guy, I'll allocate 25% of the funds to them. So, yeah, that'd be something that I could do.
First question,
Oh.
just where are you in your life cycle?
Yeah, so there are 3 major releases. The first release was called Terminal, and they're all sort of city themed. But Terminal is, like I said, your identity is really your public-private key pair. It's your wallet. So the Terminal was creating a public profile. That was released last February. And then the second release is called Boardwalk, and that's just beginning to allow people to interact within Swarm City. So we created the first marketplace, #Pioneer because it's the first one, right? And anybody who's using it as a pioneer, people who have Pioneer rep are like the old guard in Swarm City. If you see Pioneer reputation, you're like, guy's been around. But it's that version, as you experience, it's extremely clunky. So we're working on the version 2 part of Boardwalk, which should be done soon. I've said soon for a couple months now, so I feel bad about it. But no, it should be done pretty soon. And what that'll do is that's when people will be able to create their own marketplaces. And it creates a few other capabilities too. And then will be the storefront release, will be the last one. Yeah. Yes?
How would you fight the fake creation of reputation?
How do you create fake reputation?
Easy. I create 10,000 users who pretend they trade between each other, give everybody else positive review, and they have this outstanding reputation, and then they will just rip you off.
That would cost you a lot to do that because there's a hashtag fee. Every transaction that you do costs you money.
But if your transaction cost is high, then you will hardly compete with eBay. If it's low, then you can create this. And again, it's a balance of costs and returns.
I think it's a
If
balance, yeah.
I want to steal $1 million, I'll probably invest $10,000 into creation or reputation, which will let me to steal $1 million.
How will you steal it though? Because if you screw someone over, and if you, haha, I've amassed all this reputation by being a really good actor,
Okay.
and now I'm going to screw this person over. You're going to, if you know, by being a bad actor, you're going to lose funds in that deal. Someone's going to indicate in the app that you've screwed them over, and you're going to lose whatever was in escrow there. So it actually benefits you more.
The smart contract needs to be approved after a delivery has been made.
Basically, yeah, right, because it's the buyer in this situation who's going to say, yes, the deal was good, before the funds are released to the seller. So,
Okay,
I mean,
then can be the opposite. I am a good buyer. I received my $100,000 computer. I got it, and they say, oh, sorry, I didn't receive it. Give me my money back.
well, it wouldn't be a $100,000 computer because then you'd be putting a real crap ton of funds into escrow. You have a lot to lose to do that. Like if, you know, for something that, so we're getting really granular, but for something that big, if I were a marketplace owner where people are transacting in hundreds of thousands, I'm having people put tens of thousands or 100,000 into escrow to make that happen. So you really have a lot to lose if you screw someone over. It actually, you're more profitable by being a good actor in Swarm City than being a bad actor. That's why it works.
Related to that question, actually.
Yeah.
At what point does the amount of escrow from both parties get decided on? I can understand if I'm a buyer, I'm buying 20 Swarm worth of coffee beans.
Yeah.
Who decides how much the seller has to put up?
Marketplace owner decides the escrow from both parties. So it could be anywhere from 10% or 1% to 100% of the value of whatever you're transacting in.
Is it defined in the marketplace so they don't have to like individually approve
Yep,
each other?
correct. Yeah, so you would see it in the marketplace. Before you ever got into a deal, you know the rules of the marketplace. So yeah, you're.
So you said that you have built-in reputation, so if you can talk about what kinds of calculations there are for reputation and why you choose the specific one. And actually, as far as I heard, you use 3 kinds of calculations in your system. So one is something on amount of funds in successful deals, but also you spoke about reputation for markets, that if they have good reputations, that more people use them, and that reputation, as far as understood, is different kind of reputation that is not tokenized. And then you talked about third kind of reputation, that some people have a mark that they're pioneers, and because
Mark that. What's it again?
pioneers,
Pioneer.
and but it's also reputation, like they have been there for a while. It means they are more respectable. So we already have like 3 kinds of reputation, and like sometimes reputation is like how likable something is. Sometimes it's feedback, how many positive feedbacks. So it could be how long user was on a platform, like or how many contracts were. So if you can talk about it.
So the only reputation that I'm talking about is objective reputation. That means either a deal was successful or it wasn't. So if you do successful deals in marketplaces, you earn reputation for that marketplace. That's the only type of reputation there is. When I was saying that if the owner of a marketplace has good reputation, I probably should have used a different term. I just mean in the general sense that if you do a good job, people are going to want to use your marketplace. You don't earn reputation as a marketplace owner. You earn reputation by doing transactions. That makes sense? And with Pioneer, I was only specifically talking about Pioneer because Pioneer is the first marketplace. So it's just kind of cool if you see that, if you just see that like in someone's reputation line, like that they have Pioneer tokens, it's kind of like, oh, well, they've been using the platform for a long time. It's more of like a, it's almost like a badge of honor. It doesn't really,
OGs.
They're OGs. It doesn't mean, it's not necessarily worth more, but it just means they've been around in the ecosystem for longer. But you were also talking about subjective reputation, and that's, there is value in that, of course. But we wouldn't want to put any sort of subjective reputation onto the blockchain. We only want objective stuff to be attached to the blockchain, right? But with the storefronts though, you can, hashtag owners, marketplace owners could have subjective style rating systems too, as well in their on their storefront. It just wouldn't be it just wouldn't go into the blockchain. It just wouldn't be a comparative type of.
But why wouldn't you actually add that into actually storefront so you can see actually who's the person that does the job actually at the marketplace?
I'm not sure I follow the question.
So let's say you talk about you're not going to add a reputation for the store owners, right, the marketplace owners. Why don't you add that? Wouldn't that actually push the people to use that marketplace versus the other marketplace? Because this guy actually does refund your money if the package doesn't come in. It's not just whatever.
I mean, yeah. So it's an objective input. You could see how many successful deals went through a marketplace. So I'm sure that probably can happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more in the vein of this guy's question, I wanted to ask, so say you run your ride sharing thing or you're selling something and I am getting money from somebody and I collude with you and I say, hey, I'll split the money with you 50-50. How do you protect against that sort of scenario?
You're going to have to draw it for me. What do you mean? Oh, in order to gain reputation that way?
No.
Like, what's your objective?
You're the moderator, and I'm a guy that is selling something to somebody, or I'm buying something from somebody, and they send it to me, and then I collude with you and say, or the other way around, and I basically give you half of the money. That
me as a marketplace owner.
As a marketplace owner.
I mean, I think you'd get a reputation for doing that, and people would stop using the marketplace.
But what if you only did it for like one big transaction?
It'd have to be a one big one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to think about
Final
that.
exit.
But we're here, we're bad guys.
Yeah,
We're in
thinking about it,
IT
I'm
security,
a bad guy.
that's why we always invent some
Sure.
way. And how will you protect the identity of the sellers, buyers, and managers?
Because it's all local. So your identity is attached to your local machine. If you create an identity on your phone in Stormbat City, it's locally saved.
Okay, somebody stole your phone,
Well, you better have encryption on your phone.
Yeah, it requires a password.
password? North Koreans know your password.
It's the same if they start your private key though.
I mean, you could say that the feds can get into anybody's, machine too.
Anybody?
There's only so much you can do. Yeah.
So, selfish question, Lawrence, you kind of briefly spoke about the marketing side of it, the communication side of it.
Sure.
Could you elaborate a little bit on that as examples of what that could look like in an environment like this?
Oh, think about like how does Uber market themselves, right? They do Google ads, they do Facebook ads, they do commercials. Like you could do, if you're marketing for a marketplace owner, it's like any other type of app marketing that you would do, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Festivals. Yes.
The reputation score, is that I thought you said something like it's a sum, or it's just based on how many successful exchanges that you've done?
Yeah.
Is it really as simple as that, or is there it doesn't matter how big the deal was, or anything other than that?
Yeah. So the big thing I think to keep in mind is that, first of all, it needs to be objective, and second of all, the real big key here is context. It's like, if you think about it, if you're out at a bar and you're really loud and you're telling these big funny jokes and all your friends are laughing and it's a big fun festive time, you have a certain amount of reputation in that bar. Next day you go into your office and you act the exact same way, you have a meeting, you act the exact same way, boisterous, telling a bunch of jokes. Your coworkers are going to be pretty ticked at you, I would think, right? And so what's changed? Your identity is the same, you're the same person in both situations. Your actions are the same in both situations. What's different? The context is what's different, right? you were in the context of a place that it was socially acceptable for you to do that one night, and the next day you were in the context of a place that is not socially acceptable. Same thing with these marketplaces. They all are contextual, like this is a marketplace where we do this. This is a marketplace where we do this. So your reputation is really tied to that context. And you get to see, like, think about it, you know, all of the places that we shop right now for stuff, just shopping, or even all the type, you know, and the social media, all the places where we interact. If there was a way to show how successful you were interacting in all those places, then people would really get a sense of the type of stuff that you would value, and probably feel less or more comfortable to interact with you because of that.
So the reputation is tied to a marketplace?
That's correct. Yeah, every single marketplace has its own, because they're all controlled by their own smart contract. So every marketplace has its own specific reputation. So you'd see a list of all the marketplaces that you've ever interacted in, and your score of successful deals for every single one of them.
So if I look at your profile, sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just try to continue this conversation.
Yeah.
So you mean different hashtag in your terms of being different marketplace, right?
Yep.
And they have their own rules of making their own reputation score, right?
Well, it's the same rule. It's basically, it's still, the question is whether or not there was a successful deal. That's really the objective.
So
How do you
based on
define
transaction.
successful deal?
It goes through.
Like, okay, but to me, a
But hold on,
successful
wait,
deal.
let me just make sure that is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So it's purely, the reputation is purely based on the transaction, right?
That's it.
The transaction, it goes through both sides, they get goods, get money, that's good,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So what if the successful deal is that, yes, I got the item, it wasn't really what I liked, and I was able to return it? From a monetary standpoint, the money didn't change hands, but that was successful customer service, right?
Yeah.
And reputation is really trying to simulate what trust is, and to me, when
A
you
return
talk
would be
about,
trusting.
when you talk about great companies, you usually talk about, oh, well, they have great customer service, and that's why I deal with them.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure how to deal with trust from returns. It's a good question.
All right.
So again, about reputation, you're talking about how you calculate your growing reputation, but you said those.
Sorry, you're
points,
one thing. Because you start another transaction with a return, that's how you do it. You create another transaction with a return. Because, and there are many ways you could do it, because you could have hives that are shipping hives. And so whenever there's like you're doing a transaction in a retail type of marketplace, maybe the retail type of
Not if that
marketplace
was the
hires
only
the.
one, that was the only item that the seller had, right? He doesn't
Same.
have another item to sell him.
Another item to sell them. I'm not sure what you mean.
So if I return the item,
Yeah.
let's say Ted's laptop here, right? He sells it to me. I look at it and go, Ted, this is one. No, I don't want it. You know, he allows me to return it, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't have another laptop to sell me.
Right. That's
So-
okay.
But that
So-
interaction.
That interaction is still a transaction. Maybe it's a 0.001 swarm
Okay.
token return or something,
Okay.
return cost.
All right.
But then you get reputation for that return. And then it's almost like double trust because you've done 2 transactions with that person.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So how do you plan calculate unsuccessful transactions or like fraud? Is it like do you delete accounts after the first fraud, or like do you like subtract if some deal doesn't go through?
We've talked about doing negative reputation. In the future, I don't know if, I'm not sure yet. It opens up a lot of can of worms if you do that. But Swarm City can't delete accounts. There's no way to do that. We're not a centralized service, so we don't have the power to do that. But what I would say is that people who are fraudulent are not going to gain any reputation. No one's going to do business with them.
It feels like you're solving many problems here. Just addressing the reputation issue, I think, is almost a product in and of itself.
Yeah.
The decentralized marketplace is also a product. The storefronts are also a product. The
Yeah.
service of building them is also a product. That's a lot.
It's a whole ego. That's why, I mean, Yeah,
And so it's just kind of why I go back to my first question is about adoption. The scope of what you're talking about here is so big. How do you, it almost feels like you need to get, the first one off the ground to get real adoption to see, to promote what this infrastructure can actually do. I don't know how you
Yeah.
pick your.
well, so if you think about it, Swarm City only needs one marketplace to be successful in order for Swarm City to be successful. That's it, right? Just one. Because as soon as one is, if one is, then it's created a lot of value in the world. But as soon as one is, then people will see it and be extremely excited, I think. So, and there's many ways to do it. We've talked about, so the way that it was started was Swarm City started was it was in response to rideshare issues, Uber issues, actually in Portsmouth. But, and maybe we'll build probably build a rideshare storefront.
Well, yeah, it was, will you succeed without creating that yourself?
We will create the first storefront, and it's hard to know whether that'll be successful. Because to me, like rideshare is to me like a buy sell, like an Amazon, like an open bazaar, is the more successful way to go. Is the more adopted way to go. I think open bazaar, but with reputation. So I don't know. There's many ways to do it.
Looks like eBay.
Yeah. Well, eBay doesn't have objective reputation as stars.
I think he said, I'll ask one question, like eBay. Now my question to you is very simple. How do you make money?
How do we make money?
Yeah, I was curious.
We participate, well, I mean, I have Swarm tokens, so if as the value of the product goes up, the value of my holdings go up. So I'm incentivized to want to make Swarm City work.
And how-
But we don't charge user fee, we don't charge fees. No, that's why it's amazing, is once it's done, we don't charge.
So understand the token part, so how you guys issue tokens? You guys control the issuance token?
No, there was a
You
token
allow-
sale in November of 2016. And it's a little bit complicated, but there's a cap of tokens that can be made, 9.5 million tokens. And there are currently 8.1 or 2 million in circulation, but the cap is 9.5. It'll never go beyond that. So tokens are already issued.
So is the algorithm to making sure that's a cap there, or you just? set?
It's created by a smart contract,
Um,
so there's no way to, you can't, there's nothing you can do about it.
That's just,
Sorry for the ignorance, and what's that equivalent to? What is one token equivalent to dollars?
Depends on the day. I mean, what's a Bitcoin worth?
Oh, okay.
I've one, right now might be $1.40 or $1.50.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But that limits what kind of marketplaces you have. Like you can put all this effort into the coffee marketplace, and if the value of your tokens go up to the point where one token's worth $500, I'm not gonna pay $500 for one bag of coffee, right? And now I have to buy enough coffee to be equivalent to the one token, right?
Just like all the other Ethereum tokens, it's to the, what is it, 18th decimal
18,
point?
yeah.
So,
Okay.
if, fraction of a fraction of a fraction.
Okay.
That's one token.
Curious about that token issue. Do you also allow mining of your token?
No, there's no no, it's completely generated, yeah.
I know, but because different way, you can issue token, you can issue half the token, you can also allow people mining, right? If you allow people mining, you can like attract more people to build full node into your system.
But yeah, you can't retroactively create. So what happens is this, when you do a token sale, and we were one of the first
yeah,
ETH token sales.
2016 is very early.
Yeah, it was pretty badass. But what we did is you create a smart contract, that it's a token issuing contract. People send, so if you want to buy the token, and it changed, but it was like, say, 100 Swarm tokens per ETH. You would send an Ether to the smart contract, and it would send you back 100 tokens to your wallet. So that's how they were created, right then in November of 2016. And 9.5 million is it. That's all it'll ever be.
So how does the adding additional information to the next block, does that happen on the Ethereum blockchain?
That's correct.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Ethereum, so.
That's right. So they're right. So we are an Ethereum project. So that means are people familiar with Ethereum? So one of these are challenges, and one of the things that's has slowed our development down is we're also solving like Ethereum community issues too. My devs are taking a part in solving Ethereum-wide issues like scaling issues. There's another issue too. If you're an Ethereum project, for every transaction that you do, you need gas, you need ether to make your transaction go. So that's complicated for people. Oh, I need to have both Ethereum and Swarm tokens in my wallet. That sucks. So we created a gas station, which it's this little decentralized exchange that allows people to trade their Swarm tokens for ETH for gas right in the app. So they can just say, so if you have no ETH in your wallet, it'd say, do you want to fill up a little gas tank in there? And you click, yep, and say how many transactions do you want to do? And you can say like 5. It'll exchange the Swarm token for ETH for you right there.
So someone else sends Ether to that contract.
Yeah, people who want to make money off their ETH, because there'll be like a little exchange. Yeah, it's a little smart contract that handles it. So that type of stuff. Yeah, scaling issues. It's a Wild West. It's fun. Yes.
I have to say, this is fantastic. I love it here.
Thank you.
I really love it. And,
However.
the market, the whole blockchain to me is decentralized. When you introduce this concept of the pioneer store owner, I feel like you insert this centralized, powerful entity.
It's not though, because if you do a bad job in your marketplace, someone else will create a competing marketplace. It's very easy. It's just a few clicks of a button to create a competing marketplace in Swarm City. So their incentive is to be a good actor and to do a good job with their marketplace, or someone else will take their business. Yeah.
Can users like unfollow a marketplace where they don't see it anymore? Because I can imagine some very unsettling marketplaces.
So one of the things that we can control is what gets attached to the swarm.city URL. So anybody who enters swarm.city from Swarm City from the swarm.city URL will only list certain marketplaces there. And maybe it's, I don't know, we don't have enough marketplaces to make that, to worry about sorting and all that stuff right now. But we can blacklist some marketplaces.
So your app will potentially censor some stores.
Yeah, because we don't want that stuff either on there. I mean, people can do whatever they want and create their own thing, and that's their world. But anything attached to us will be family friendly. No, it's fine.
So in this whole thing, since the transaction happens anonymous, and even though I think this is a feature of blockchain, people love it, some dislike it. What happens if someone treats something is not legal? So is there any way you can detect it? Who's holding the legal responsibility of treating things over there?
Well, it's tough to really be anonymous in blockchain, right? Because everything you do.
It's traceable, but however, it's anonymous. Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, but the thing is, you have to make a determination. You either want reputation or you want anonymity. Because if the more transactions that you do, the more deals that you do, the more people interact with you, the harder it is to conceal your identity, right? So you have to decide.
I understand you talk about the goods, the reputation, not reputation. But
no, but I'm saying you have to make a choice. Because if you want to stay anonymous, you can't gain reputation. So how many people are going to want to do deals with you in the first place if you have no reputation?
You
That's
just
what I'm saying.
create fake identity.
Right, you create multiple identities, but
No,
you have
I
the
mean,
same
you create fake identity, you build the Ponzi scheme.
There's no
and
such
then-
thing as a fake identity. There's a wallet address. There's a public-private key pair. There's no such thing as fake in blockchain.
No, but-
Wait, hold on a second. It's a public-private key pair, right? So you can create multiple identities. You can create many. Like the way that you are at your work is maybe different than you are at home, and maybe your home life is different, and the way that you interact at home is different than the way that you interact as work. So maybe you have your work identity and you have your home identity. So you can have multiple identities.
Yeah, you mean persona, but this persona may be not attached to a human being. It's a virtual persona, which appeared from nowhere, built the Ponzi scheme, collected $10 million, and disappeared.
I don't know how. You'd have to take me through the process of how
What
that
he's
works.
describing is you create your own marketplace.
Yep.
you create a bunch of accounts that, and when they all interact with each other, you get the swarm tokens that they're burning essentially. So it goes back to you, so you're not losing any money yet.
You're
Someone else
you're
comes
losing
in-
gas though.
You're losing gas.
Yeah.
You burn some ether.
Yeah.
Somebody else comes in, they see, oh, this guy, all these merchants are really good, he's got high reputation, I'm gonna do a trade on here, and then they get ripped off because it was you pretending the whole time. It's basically the nothing at stake problem, and that's why with proof of stake you have to lock up a large amount of funds to participate. So the way that you would solve that problem is they would have to lock up a huge amount of swarm tokens to open a store, and then that way if they get caught doing that scenario,
Yeah, you got it. I just think like people are going to find out that you're a bad actor, and no one's going to go back to your marketplace.
Right, but the first person to find that out is the one that gets ripped
I
off.
mean, yeah, it's
Or it
it's a
would
tough
be actually
world.
the first one, it would be maybe like 10 or 20 when you think about it mathematically.
Yeah.
It's, if you, let's say you do 100 transactions, like illegal transactions or whatever, you call it blacklisted. By the time you figure out, oh, these guys are doing a bad thing, there's already not so many people that got hurt for it, you know, before it deducts his reputation. Think about it. It's the same thing like eBay scams that are going on. You know,
Kinda
it's like
need
the person
like a
builds
hierarchy
up.
thing.
You know, you're looking at how much money you're spending on the transactions and all that stuff. You know, he could be maybe selling something for 50 cents to build up the reputation real quick because you're doing a buy, but each transaction.
But think
is not
about
that
how
much
much
money.
effort you'd have to put into screwing people over. How much effort, where if you put the same amount of effort into being a good actor, you would make more
I
money.
could write a program to do it though, that just generates
How?
like accounts and sends the transactions and does all of it.
Exactly.
You'll have to show me. Yes?
I think part of it from a user standpoint is if I'm looking at somebody's reputation points, I can see which marketplaces they go to.
Yes.
And if it's all marketplaces that I don't recognize, then I can assume all of those new marketplaces
But
are.
if you're a new person, you're not going to recognize any of the markets.
No, but if
Well,
you're
then
new in
you
any
can
community,
know
or,
others.
like say you move to a new city, right? You move to Manchester, you've never been there before. You just moved here. Are you gonna like run down the streets with your dollars out, throwing money? No, you're gonna be careful, right? You're probably gonna wanna talk to someone who's already been in the city, who can maybe show you the good places to go, places where you're not gonna get hurt. If you're new and there's a bunch, so I think two things will happen. In the beginning, early adopters, every marketplace that comes online will be like, oh my God, what is this? And like, we'll all sort of explore it together. And we'll know pretty quickly if it's a bad actor or not. And then later on, there'll be a lot of users who have had experience in these marketplaces. And you would go to someone, maybe actually create a marketplace that as a guide that sends you through the city, that shows you the good places to go. So I think marketplaces like that no one would use them pretty soon. Yes?
This has nothing to do with your product, but purely legal questions, yeah, you know, in case some people selling illegal goods, put it that way. So who will be responsible for it? I know the person who's selling it will be, right? How about you guys provide some platform? What kind of legal?
Yeah, the person owns the marketplace.
I understand that piece, but how about you
So it's
provide the platform?
The question is, if you own a website, are you responsible for the people who are interacting on your website? I think philosophically the answer is no.
As long as you do your due diligence to try and stop. I think that's like the law or whatever.
Might be.
You try and, whenever someone requests that something be taken down, you like respond.
I think anybody who uses any blockchain technology, who buys cryptocurrency, who trades cryptocurrency, who use these types of products is all on a list. And I mean, I think regardless of what you do, you're putting yourself out there. I don't think that I'm responsible for two people who are interacting in a non-moral way. I don't think that that's my responsibility. My responsibility is for my own actions.
What was your blacklist? I didn't understand.
Oh, just, so we get to control what marketplaces are shown at our website.
Your website.
Yeah, swarm.city website. That's our URL. So like if you think about our reputation as a project, it's two things. It's the code that we write, and it's our URL. It's the code that is the place where that code goes. So we get to determine what gets shown at that URL. And so, right, if there's bad marketplaces, we wouldn't show them there. Yeah.
But the link still exists.
Yeah, of course, anybody can.
So
I
if
mean,
you- so if you're-
people can take our code
Right.
and create Swarm City elsewhere, call it Dark City, and it can be all, all gun runners and drugs. I mean, that's the way.
I mean,
open
eBay
source
was
projects
selling
are.
drugs for a while.
Hmm.
There's no way to stop it, you know.
But that's not what I want. I mean, any technology can be used for good or bad. It's just what type of person are
So
you?
I just want
Oh.
to point out, we've been going for an hour. I want to see if you're.
Oh,
okay.
I mean, I'll take any questions that you got, unless you want me to stop.
Yeah, just will be scenario, for example, if you have this ride sharing app and there are some sexual predator who is giving rides, and for example, most of rides are successful, but blonde women are not lucky with that sexual predator. So his reputation will still grow up. So I think this example may show that it's not enough just built-in reputation. You need also some way for negative reviews too.
Well, I mean, you can do that in a storefront. You can have, like I said, you can have non-objective, you can have subjective reputation, or you could do reviews in the storefront. We just wouldn't want to do that for the objective side of things. We wouldn't want that to be on the blockchain. But I mean, that's a case for, you know, probably most people would call law enforcement in that case and try to stop that person from being a predator.
Last question from me. So how long take your team to develop this project?
Wait, say that again, sorry?
How long take your team to develop this, you know, what you have right now?
That's a good question. I don't know.
How many users you have?
How many users?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
They're still in development.
Yeah, basically it's in a beta.
It's just
So there's been a
safe
lot of
for
testers, but I'm not sure.
But dozens,
Well, I mean,
hundreds, thousands?
there's the one that you host, and then there's anybody that downloads the code can go off and create these marketplaces, and you wouldn't even know that they're doing it.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to do it now, but in the future they would be able to do that. Actually, there's a parallel project that is taking Swarm City and putting it on EOS, actually, EOS. And we're going to try to figure out how to bridge the tokens between the two. So, I mean, yeah, you could copy code and put it anywhere, put it on another platform.
Are you funded, or are you kind of bootstrapping, or how are you?
We fund it with the token sale.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many developers?
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 full-time. Yeah, there's like, I don't know, 10 or 12 of us who are active in it, like really working on the project.
Full time?
Yeah. Anything else? All right.
All
What
right.
exchanges are you, is your token listed on?
Bittrex is the big one. I mean, you can get tokens through Shapeshift and Changely, and there's a third one, I can't remember the name.
Oh, you're on Shapeshift?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then a few other exchanges around the world that I can't remember. Yeah. Cool, thank you very much.
So we need,